All right, so I'll call the meeting to order. Thanks, everyone. Don't love the virtual meetings as much, but we've got to do what we've got to do. Judy, why don't you go ahead and please call the roll?
All right, Judy Neville, here. Tom Schulte.
Here.
Amy Carroll. Here. Todd Lavieri.
Here.
Michael Chen. Still
Here.
Yeah, good. Chris Labrie.
Here.
Victor Alvarez.
Here.
Maria Weingarten. Here. Bob Hamill.
Here.
Colin Dobbins not coming, and James is not coming either. So we're fully seated.
Yep, okay.
All right.
All right. Okay, thanks, everyone. I'll try to get through this without coughing my head off throughout the next hour and a half or so. We are going to change the agenda around just a bit. We'll have Gene go right after the first selectman's update on the New Canaan rink. So why don't we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, please?
Motion.
Motion, Maria. Second?
Second.
Second, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? So moved. All right, Kevin, if you give us your update, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good to see you in person or by Zoom. Start with COVID as always. Now that we have a couple of our Board of members positive, I would call this maybe a bump, not a wave yet. Schools are doing very well. End of last week, there was a report that the schools, both teachers and students, are very low numbers, so that's good news. The health department, as I said before, continues their weekly booster and vaccination clinics at Irwin and House, and they're also available at local pharmacies, so there's no reason why people shouldn't be getting boosters. Capital projects, quick update. We've been working with Eversource to complete their downtown expansion, and we'll be hopefully, if Tiger gets our line into the 220 Elm, we'll get the Upper Elm Street paved. As you see, there's been a lot of repaving and lining downtown around the streets that were disturbed. The 220 Elm project is moving along with the Board of Ed is about to go out to bid with their proposed renovation to the first floor. We told you before, I think, that the aquarium pipe was going to stop work on 106, but the state changed that. So they're continuing their work on 106 but they're going to do the New Canaan segments, as we talked about, with Lakeview and the cemetery, et cetera, in the next few weeks. The Playhouse, you're going to get an update tonight, so I don't need to talk too much about that. Cinema Lab is doing very well with their fundraising, which is nearly complete, and we expect to sign the lease very shortly now. The West South Tower, the Planning and Zoning will have a public meeting probably the 24th or the 25th of October, their regular meeting or special meeting on the 24th. That's still being nailed down, and then I expect that to go to the Town Council in November. The PD Building Committee, which will meet this Thursday, is finalizing their design plans with Brian Humes. I'm about to sign 39 Locust Street lease for the Police Department temporary occupancy. And as you read in the press, we hired last week a grant writer. We are confident we will get his salary more than paid for with grant opportunities. There's grants all over the place, both federal and state. And as you know, Greg Riley is known to most of you as the former editor of the Advertiser, and he's done very well over in Stratford for the past 2.5 years, getting grants, so that that's good news. And I'm not sure we mentioned last month, Phoebe Knowles has been hired as the Waveney Wedding Coordinator part-time by the town. She's part-time with the Waveney Park Conservancy, and it will be good complementary work for her to be working for the town part-time and the Conservancy part-time. And then finally, the Silver Hill Hospital Urgent Assessment Program continues to be well received and is doing good work. And that's one that we may want to have a report on, the Board of Finance and Town Council maybe the next month. So that's all I have. I'd be happy to take questions.
I have a question about the West Cell Tower. So when you selected the construction company to do the work for that,
I didn't select it. It was selected in August. of 2016 by Rob Malazzi and the Board of Selectmen at the time pursuant to an RFP. So Homeland Towers has been working for the past 5 years, 2016, on our behalf. So I didn't select them, but I fully agreed. I mean, they're a very good firm to be working with.
Oh, so they were selected back in 2016, and they will build every cell tower going forward for the foreseeable future?
They will. They don't have an exclusive, but they have an exclusive on town properties. They don't have an exclusive in town, but we've made clear to the carriers that we would like the carriers to work with us to get the additional 2 or 3 cell towers we need.
Also, I understand that Greenwich is not doing cell towers. They're doing more like macro rooftop installments and like installments of devices on lampposts and other things.
Well, not to my knowledge. I talked to the first selectman last Saturday morning when I was with him because of my personal experience with my children in North Greenwich is that they have terrible cell service, and there aren't buildings in the northern part of Greenwich to put antennas on. There is no alternative. There is no alternative technology to macro sites. Verizon has installed maybe 6 small cells in New Canaan for capacity downtown and near the Merritt Parkway. But as far as getting coverage, you need macro sites. And the first selectman at Greenwich agreed with me that people don't want cell towers, you don't get cell service.
How about the cell tower that was installed over near St. Luke's?
Soundview Lane is operational for AT&T. Verizon will be adding their equipment, as will T-Mobile, in due time. So
it's not operational yet?
AT&T is operational.
Oh.
They're the ones that got the work with Homeland Towers to get it built.
And
all the other carriers will come onto a tower that's already built.
And AT&T users are happy with the service in that area?
I think Kathleen Corbett complimented Keith Ritchie on her improved cell service up there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Kevin, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move over to the New Canaan rig. Is Ann there? Sorry, I can't see if Ann's there or not.
Yeah.
Yep, she's coming.
Okay, and Jean?
Yeah, Jean, and Jean's off, just go out. So, the town has been awarded a grant for the bond.
Hey, Ann, sorry to interrupt you. If you're going to have to speak closer to the microphone, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, better. Thank you.
So the town has been granted through, Tom O'Day was able to secure a grant, and it's through the bonding at the state level of $200,000. It was awarded, or it was voted on by the bond commission at the state back in March. And it needs to come in front of this board so that you can accept the grant on our behalf, so that we could move forward to the next level of starting the ice rink on it. So I can let Jean go into the details of what that's going to involve, but it's before this board to accept the grant.
Hi all, and Gene Goodman here with the NC Rink. My understanding is again that this effectively these funds are being granted to NC Rink with the town as a trustee, so to speak. It's a state requirement that the town hold the money for us, and if I'm wrong, correct me.
Just to make sure, it is a town grant, so it's going to go through the grant. The town has to manage the grant. It is going through us. We're responsible for anything that comes through it, and it's a pass through the Inc. Yeah.
Right, so we don't get the funds directly as we perform our work to make the rink a reality. Come forward with invoices, et cetera, appropriate, submit them to the town. Town will then approve them and move the money from the holding tank, if you will, in the town over to NC Rink to pay the bills, and that's it. If we have any questions or questions about the rink in general, be happy to talk to you. Yes.
And Jean, thanks. Do we have, and I know this has been going around for a while, so if I forget the numbers. So I know there's previous donation money in, there's this 200,000. So what's going to be the cost of the capital costs and then the ongoing operational costs of this rink. I mean, so it's nice to get the money, right? And it's always nice to have features, but the question is, where's the additional money going to come if it's needed to make this a venture that supports itself? Who pays for the electricity, all that jazz? I mean,
Well, I like to use the pool as an example, although the analogy isn't 100% accurate. For instance, the town for the pool, the town had to actually do a lot of bonding
yep.
over, I think it was a 20-year period, which is, I think, recently paid off, is going to be paid off in the next year or two. We're not anticipating that at all. We are going to, like the pool, charge to gate passes, if you will, to attend. It'll be open to out-of-towners as well, somewhat along the lines of the pool, family passes, et cetera, season passes. That will be the bulk of our funding in general. Right now, we're anticipating further fundraising. For instance, our target for this coming year is about $100,000, which in fact, I just completed a grant to NCCF, again, a grant application today. But most of it we're expecting to raise from individuals who are interested and supportive of this.
Okay, so is there any,
Yeah.
yeah, is there any current update of, for this next season, we have to spend this much in capital, these are going to be operating expenses, et
Yes,
cetera?
I have that, and I could
Yeah.
send that to you if you'd
Yeah,
like.
I would just like to, like the electricity, who pays for the,
Oh, we pay for everything.
okay, yeah.
Okay. The town was very nice, generous in helping us, in fact, in getting the bathrooms winterized, which is helpful to us. It's also helpful to the town, of course, too. But no, we are not asking the town for grants or to make it possible. We're planning on being able to do this independently. Grants, of course, such as this we're getting right now are very helpful. NCCF gave us $10,000 in spring. We did get $25,000 ARPA funding, but again, we're anticipating getting substantial funding from individuals. As we've already done in the past, we've raised from individuals over $150,000 to date.
So,
Well, a summary at some point, just a current summary. Hey, Tom.
Hi, guys. Sorry I'm not there. We've been doing this, trying to get this money and this rink started since 07, 06. And I'm confident. We've now we've got the rink bought, and we've really invested in all the capital, so we have no further well, I shouldn't say no.
Recording in progress.
We have limited capital expenses going forward, so I am extremely confident that we can cover much of the expenses with our fees for skating, and we can raise whatever money, whatever shortfall. So the $200,000, as Gene said, that I was able to secure through the state is really something that's almost a buffer for the town to know that we're not going to have any issues in operating for the next couple of years. And so, I'm extremely confident that we'll be able to easily cover the operational costs because we have no debt.
Good. And I couldn't quite understand your question. Did you say you wanted to see a breakdown of the cost, what we're getting for the grant and all of that, or you're okay?
I would just like at your convenience to see how you think it's going to pencil out for next year. That's all. Just so it's not like, we feel it's going to be this. Just to show us what you think.
I would like to make a comment. The rink is an operation of the nonprofit. We're only a landlord. On the other hand, this grant that came from the state, which comes with no strings, I'm told, is only made to municipalities. It's not made to a nonprofit. So as Tom said, it's kind of a buffer. It'll be used to supplement their operations. But the town is not running the rink. Just want to make clear that.
No.
So,
And to make clear, from a legal standpoint, we're going to run it this very similar way that Westport has run their rink for over a decade, where the nonprofit, we insure and indemnify the town, and we hire a third party to operate the rink. So we've got that set up. We're using the same entity that Westport has used. We're using very similar language in the contracts that I've reviewed and gone over with the town attorney. So, who's the same town attorney for Westport. So we've set it up in a way that's it's not the first time it's being done, and you know, we're making sure the town's exposure is extremely limited to as close to zero as any other event that goes on in town property.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jean or Ann?
And who's covering the insurance liability? It's on town property, so that's part of the town.
That's, well, we have our own insurance.
But that has to supplement the town, even if there's the town still has the liability on town property. We checked this on a number.
The town is a beneficiary if you were co-insured.
Yeah.
We pay for it.
All right.
Is it an indoor rink or an outdoor
No,
rink?
it's a recreational, seasonal outdoor rink. Recreational meaning it's designed primarily for open skate time for families. It's
Nice.
outdoors. It's put up on a parking lot between right next to the girls' softball field, and it's been put up typically to open in early December and close in late February. It's up, and then it's gone, totally gone. So it's each year put up, operated. Families enjoy skating, open time, and then we take it down, store it away.
So it's
How about if the temperature drops or if it climbs above 33 degrees and it gets a little bit swampy on the ice?
Yeah, we purchased a lot of equipment used to help make this possible to get us going. But if you were to buy the chiller that we have new, it would be about $150,000. So it's not like putting out some water and hoping it freezes. We do have a chiller. It's expensive. Real dasher boards, professional dasher boards, they themselves cost about $70,000. Cooling mats with 1,000 gallons of glycol, by the way, to circulate through it to keep the ice cold. Now, if it gets really warm, there will be times, even a few years ago, the Winter Club was a much more expensive materials and equipment, had to close for a few days as an example. So that can happen, just like heavy rains would happen too. But yes, we have cooling equipment. We have a Zamboni-like machine to clear the ice and keep it well groomed as well.
Well, there's been a lot of interest in this for a long time, so thanks for making it happen. Jean, does this mean we really are rooting for a cold winter? Is that what you're sort of saying?
supposed to have one.
We would like that.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I would just like to, if I could just add, we had the rink up last year because, you know, we had the agreements all worked out. Unfortunately, between getting the electricity there and then the weather didn't cooperate, we actually never were able to open. But we did do a dry run, and we're extremely confident that we will be opening this year with your assistance in getting this grant. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to you guys for sticking with it. I think it's been fantastic. It'll be such a great activity for our community. So it's wonderful. So thank you for your hard
support.
work.
Can I just ask an operating question? Is this a season pass or is this by request? Can you purchase ahead of time?
So we just like the pool, seasonal passes. We'll have a family pass for 2 adults and a child, 2 adults and 2 kids, or things like that. Individual season passes, or you can just come, unlike the local rinks where you typically have to call and say, hey, what's open on Saturday? And they'll say, oh, we have opening from 2 to 3:30, and that's it. We'll be open most of the time. You just come by. You can skate on your pass all day if you want. You can come and go for that day. If you buy a daily pass or a season pass, you can come anytime.
So you can do that.
Now,
okay. All right.
We're planning on having a hospitality tent heated there too, so that you can take a break in the protected heated area and have some lunch with your kids if you're bringing them, things like that. And next year, we're hoping to open up a rental skate shop there, so if you have no skates, you can come, rent some skates, and go skating.
How about sticks and pucks? Is there going to be any time?
No hockey at this point in time. You now run into insurance requirement, which says that you have to have either glass or nets going up about 10 or 12 feet high. We will have regular dasher boards. They're solid metal, but because of the pucks and the dangers there, at this point in time, we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. We just want to get up and running, and then we might do that down the road. Not this go-around.
And Judy, the first day, all government officials are welcome to opening day, and if there's any costs associated with it, I've got it covered.
Oh, yeah.
That's all
All
correct.
right. If there are any other questions, anything else? Okay, we need a motion then to approve or to accept the grant in aid.
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Who was the second? Judy?
Maria.
Maria, great, okay. All in favor? Opposed? I see none. Unanimous? Good job. Great job, Tom.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Gene.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, thanks, everyone. Let's move back to the Playhouse. I think we have Tiger and Bill.
Okay.
Tiger, you there?
Yeah, I'm here too.
Hi, Bill.
Okay. You hear me okay?
We can hear you, Bill.
Very good. Evening, everybody. So in the long-awaited renovations, the Playhouse has begun. So we're in our first phase here. We retained the architectural preservation studio to do the exterior and the interior design work. The exterior design was completed. Documents were out to bid. We had all the documents. We retained Alden Bailey Restoration Corporation to do the exterior work, which is about 25% done at the moment. So that consists of a lot of repointing, replacing the brick, rebuilding the storefront windows. So they will still look the same, but they're going to be nice and new and a little stronger. Along the alleys, if you look up, you'll see the original windows that were there, and lo and behold, the original windows were behind all the metal. So we're going to restore those windows and just darken them. So
Where's this?
That's good.
Where?
Yeah.
Playhouse. Right?
No, but where?
The alley. When you walk down the alley, you look up, there was all sheet metal along the windows. You just sheet metal them over. We exposed them, found the original windows still inside there. So we're restoring all those back to the original condition. Repointing all around the building, as I said, and replacing any brick that's been deteriorated or wearing out. Lentils that were rusted out and called house falling, that's all being replaced and repaired. The infill, what used to be a big exhaust fan up on the top, that's gone, and they filled it back in with brick. That was the original air conditioning, I guess, back in the 30s,
Really?
40s. Big fan in there.
Oh, wow.
So we're moving right along. We met with engineers today for the interior work. We have some preliminary plans drafted right now, trying to work with Cinema Lab on their programming space and what their wants are, and try to achieve everything we can. We're working towards that goal. These seats have been removed out of the theater. They're temporarily being stored. And once we got confirmation that the new seats are on their way, then we'll dispose of the old seats. It's a little tricky, as you guys know, about the supply chain and the way the world is right now. So we're being very cautious of not just throwing everything away and just hang on to it to make sure we have the new stuff that it gets here in time. So the timeline right now looks like wrapping up by the end of the year of the exterior work. The tenants will all be relocated by the first of the year, which time then right after the Thanksgiving we'll be doing the storefront windows. We trying to keep the ball going here by continuing doing some work. We did a little bit of exploratory demo inside, so we have things exposed. We're considering doing some the demo and any kind of abatement that may have to happen inside right after the holiday season, as we are out to bid to get a contractor to do all the fit out work on the inside. So we're exploring different options on how we can keep moving forward so that we can not lose time on this and get it opened up next year.
As you're going through this, I mean, how is it vis-a-vis where you budgeted it? I mean, there's two things. There's a timeline on it, and there's an estimated cost, right?
Right.
And it sounds like some things are still getting bid out. It's an old building. You're opening up stuff. You got to replace stuff. You have a window. I mean, so do we have any kind of update on, what do you think we agreed the whole cost would be and where we are on that, where our risk factors are going on over or under, or would it be a matter of value engineering of stuff you can't do?
All
So, I
the
mean,
above.
but
All the above. All the above. So yes. So going into it, when we did our budget request, we worked with professionals, architects and engineers, and talked about what the program it would require. We know what the requirements are. We know we have to get the ADA compliancy. We're going to have to get an elevator in there to get up to the second floor. HVAC systems have to be all upgraded and replaced in some pieces of it.
And like the elevator will get in before Cinema Lab opens up and everything? I mean, all this stuff.
That's the goal. The goal is to have it all 100% done on grand opening day next year.
Okay, but like, don't you have to pre-order an elevator and stuff like
We're
that?
working on it.
What?
We're working on it. We are considering, that's one of the items we may purchase ahead of time because the elevator does take a little time to get. Once we determine the shaft size, then we can entertain getting bids from elevator companies and at least get that going. Because an elevator is very unique. First of all, it's under jurisdiction of the state, not the town, as far as inspections and permitting goes. And because it'll be a fixed shaft, we'll know what the elevator size is. Elevator companies install the elevator. They take all that liability, and we keep them on board. So the a GC would build a shaft, and then he would manage the elevator company installing the elevator. But it's all done by them, so that we feel that we can get the ball rolling. Perhaps we'll go get a little bit sooner than later on that, so that we can have that elevator in possession when that shaft is ready to accept it.
So remind me, what is the all-in exposure to the town on the cost of this renovation? Not the Cinema Lab, but, you know, our part of the fixing the building and making ADA. And do we have, I would like an update kind of where we are in terms of what
we ended up with approximately 2.2 or 2.3 million with all the work, exterior work and doing the inside work. You know, because Cinema Lab is contributing quite a bit to the fit out, and it's all at their request. We have money in escrow that they've been putting in escrow, and we will be using their funds, managing their money to do the whole fit out, so that it gets done right and that it doesn't compromise anything that we've done or do, and put the town at any kind of risk. So we'll be managing all the work that's going on. So we feel that we're in a pretty comfortable spot right now with the fund that's in place. Now, you know, it's an old building. If some things come up that are unforeseen, sure, that's in any building, even new buildings. But right now we've opened up enough. Our confidence is getting better every day the more we dig into this. So it was a well-built building 100 years ago, believe it or not. So, yeah. So our goal is to come in under budget, and we're going to try.
Okay. I guess I just feel like a little in the dark. It's like, well, this is going to get this. Can we maybe next month, if you give us an update, this is what the whole thing's supposed to cost. This is our part. This is Cinema Labs. This is how far along we are. This is what's bid. This is what's open. So we know that we can do it within.
Sure. We can work up a spreadsheet. We can even email it out to you folks so that you can have a review of it.
Yeah, because it's an expensive project. It's not an expensive town project.
Nothing's cheap now.
Bill and Tiger, you have a budget, you have a plan.
Yes.
You don't have to work much up, I hope. Yeah.
No, and then we just got started, but we're, to your point, yeah, we can, you know.
Just keep us up to speed on.
Yeah, we can give a timeline. I mean, I keep the spreadsheets on the money anyhow. I keep real time on it.
Okay.
Where's the elevator going?
I can't give out them secrets.
No, I mean, do you know? Have you?
Right now, tentatively, it's going to be, you know where the concession stand is?
Yeah.
Yeah, we think we're going to put it in the center there.
Oh, really?
And then bathrooms will be on each side of the elevator with no entrances going into the theater itself.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Can you get a 2-for-1 with Waveney? Just saying.
Keep pushing that. No, it's totally different concepts, unfortunately. So elevator companies, they don't give discounts, by the way. But yeah, so that's where the elevator's going. Bathrooms on each side, open space upstairs. Plans coming together. We have our challenges on elevations and what we have to do there, but we're getting through it.
Would you say we're on track, Bill?
Currently, right now, we are on track. We're still in the development stages of the plans. But yeah, I talked to the architect because I was concerned about the budget too. I always am. And we're getting, like I said, a better comfort level every day that we're on target. So hopefully it'll stay the course and nothing will get away from us. I hope.
I have a question about the old windows. So nowadays the windows come with 2 sheets and there's a argon gas in between them for insulation purposes. And I would imagine these old windows don't have that. Or is there any concern about the insulation quality of the old windows?
There will be most likely on the inside, you won't even see it. There'll be a thermal window on the inside. So the windows on the outside will be just more for aesthetic purposes. And the window on the inside, the thermal window will probably be the blacked out window. So.
Thanks.
Tiger, anything you want to add? Anything else we need to know?
No, at present, I mean, we're still, the project's still in its infancy. We haven't bid out the majority of the work yet. We're working on the exterior, and the interior is being designed. We had to do some exploratory work on the inside, mainly taking down the ceiling to be able to see what was above, but we haven't bid out anything of note yet besides the exterior work, and that came in under budget, at present. So, as Bill said, as it develops and the project develops, we'll let you know. But we can tell you where we are. It hasn't changed much from when we got the original approval from this board and the council. So, but we'll put that together for you and give you an update next month. We have no problem coming back every month if you want to hear us.
Yeah. I think touching base in November and December makes a lot of sense. And January, you're going to be.
We're sure to see you in January and February. So
yeah. Well, we know we'll see you regularly. Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Tiger or for Bill? Anyone? Kevin, you mentioned something about fundraising. I don't think Bill's going to cover that. Anything you want to add there from Cinema Lab?
The Cinema Lab, Tucker, you want to join us?
Yeah, I got an update from them today. Currently in the escrow account, we have $1,027,000, and there's $250 that should be coming in the next day or two of the 1.5 goal that they have. So, but we have in-house over $1 million in our escrow account.
Escrow in there. Wow.
That's great.
That's,
that was as of this afternoon.
It's great.
yeah, that's current, obviously. Yeah.
I think that's probably what they said, $1 million in October or thereabouts. So
You're right on, yeah.
All right. Anything else, Tucker?
No, I just got to let someone in.
Okay. If there are no more questions, we can move on. Okay. Bill, thank you. Tiger, thanks for that. Appreciate that update. All right, Josh and Ann, we've got a couple items with you, a finance update, and then we've got some line items to transfer.
All right. Can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So in front of you, you have the year-to-date financials as of September 30th, which is the 1 quarter mark for the year, 23. I'd just like to say at the start of this, these numbers are very preliminary since we still have a lot of both revenues and expenses to get in. These don't necessarily reflect the exact numbers at that moment, and they'll continue to change as we catch up, and probably within a month we'll have just a more accurate representation of kind of where we're actually at. So just starting with the revenue side of things, the total overall revenues is at 50% of what was budgeted, namely due to the tax collection, which is at 53% of what was budgeted, which is a small uptick from last year, which is only about $300,000. Moving down to building and conveyance fees, we're at 21 and 25% of what was budgeted, falling behind slightly from what was booked at that point last year. To parking permits, we're at the 33% mark for what was budgeted. And also, again, a little bit behind where we were for last year in terms of what's in there. Overall, in terms of revenue, though, we are just down 1 million or 1.3%, but we believe that's really mainly due to just what has gotten booked yet, and we have a lot of these things kind of just waiting to be put in.
Yeah, I'll just to fine tune it as well what Josh has said. On the taxes side, we built a bridge so that it can automatically be loaded from the tax system into our finance system. So that's why the tax numbers are more up to date. The others are our manual key punch thing where we're just behind just from the sake that we were down 2 staff members and we were concentrating on year end. So we've hired those 2 positions now, so we're pretty excited that we can get on top of getting all that key punch in and then working towards building bridges in those systems so that they're automatic going forward and we don't have this level of manual work. But we hope to have it done within the next 2-3 weeks probably. Credit cards are our biggest one. We check them to make sure things are looking reasonable. It's just we physically haven't done the key punching.
I'd also add that of the $1 million that is down in revenue, last year there was about $700,000 that was booked as a transfer in from the extra police extra duty fund, which hasn't been, I don't think we've done the fund analysis yet to see what we want to transfer out or what we want to spend on capital projects within extra duty. So that's kind of a large chunk of what's missing within that other revenue side of things, which is the last.
Hey, Josh, you'll need to get closer to the mic, or whomever's speaking will need to make sure they're closer to the mic. Thanks.
Sure. No, I was just saying that the...
I got it. I heard it, but just barely.
Okay.
Yep.
So are there any questions on revenue? So down to the expenditure side of things, right now it is at about 15% of the budgeted expenses. Now, keeping in mind this number is missing, I believe, a payroll or 2 payrolls that are not booked, which is kind of why you see that it's 23% below budget in terms of versus last year. So that obviously will change as we kind of catch up on things, because I believe booking payroll is quite an arduous and manual process, and so as we're catching up, that'll be more in line with reality.
Yeah, and we're also looking through the payroll processes too to streamline that from an upload versus a key punch. So as we're going through everything, we're trying to see what we need to change to make that more efficient.
And that's kind of it.
Yeah, there's nothing on the outlier that we're seeing, and just going through it, like we're reviewing the items coming in, payroll, things like that, to make sure, and monitoring to say, okay, what's our cash need for the next one? I'll be reaching out to the treasurer on things just from a cash perspective to make sure he's doing a lot of investments at the moment to pick up the best he can on returns. But there's nothing of concern right now that we're seeing coming in with invoices or anything like that, other than what I've mentioned before on utilities. That's the one where obviously we don't know where that's going to go. Certainly now with what's happening with what's going to happen to the oil and gas. So we're definitely, Tiger and his team are keeping an eye on that, and then by probably January, February, we'll know whether that's really going to be a problem. It was originally, Tiger, correct me if I'm wrong, we were originally up at possibly having a shortage of about 300,000, but that keeps shifting every time the price shifts.
Yep.
So that's an ongoing watch to see how that works out.
Do you guys remember in the parking tickets and permits of the 890 we budgeted, right?
Yeah.
What percentage of that is railroad parking permits, you know?
Okay, so I was just...
I'm just curious because, you know, I tend to have to keep parking further and further over when I go to the train.
Yeah.
And I know we used to sell 3 times that, but of that number, because, you know, there's tickets and all that stuff. So do you know how that breaks out between, like, railroad parking?
Is it, and just for me getting up in the history, you're talking about the one that we give to the railroad fund at the end of the year of a portion of those permits?
No.
Our $890,000 line item that we budgeted.
Amy, remember that we changed last year to renewing commuter permits to September 1st rather than July 1st.
Okay.
You used to split the revenues between years. Now it's all going to be in one year.
Okay.
But because we did it in September, I don't think a lot of the revenues that came in September are booked yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just wait. I'm just curious.
Credit card,
Yeah, that
so-
makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Other question about it? So by next month, you should have, you know, we'll have the rev pretty much up to date with, we had the new staff start. They're probably 2-3 weeks in right now. So we can get up to date on a lot of these things.
The only revenue number that ever concerns me is that conveyance fee. So we'll see how that pans out. Now, at this point, you're saying we're at 25%. That's probably not a bad place to be. But we have to watch that one carefully. We did take it down, you recall, last year. I think the actual last year was 2.8. Maybe. So we did take the budget down to be conservative on that one. We'll see. We have to watch that one carefully.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else here? Good update, kind of pretty early.
Thanks.
Okay, Josh, you want to cover the transfers? Yeah.
Sure, yeah. The transfer is just to review. There's 19,300 across a few departments that are just between lines, nothing kind of outstanding. And moving to the transfers to approve is just one $30,000 transfer in the town buildings account from service contracts and property cleaning, 20,000 and 10,000 into outside contractors. And I believe this is to pay for some costs associated with 220L.
Monthly maintenance.
Like monthly, yep.
What are we doing at 220L that has 30,000 expense, and do we have enough money for the cleaning and stuff that we're switching out of?
We do. We have 220L now has about about $12,000 a monthly fee. So we're making sure it's in the right category right now, and then seeing backtracking on the custodial, because he's evened out what his custodial are. So we have to wait and see if there's enough funds left on those accounts for 220L. Because at the time of the budget, the numbers for 220L weren't final yet. So now they have a monthly fee. Maintenance on the building fee.
Oh, and this is paying
To cover those fees, yeah.
So is it 10,000 a month because it's a quarter? Is that like a quarterly thing?
11.5, 12, yeah.
Okay, so this is covering like the first quarter,
Yeah,
more or less.
yeah.
Okay, and so where it's coming from, the service contracts and property cleaning, we still have enough to cover our
Yeah, we're
service
making
contract,
sure,
property
Bill
cleaning.
just reduced, because when we do it at the very beginning, we open up and say, okay, here's the POs, and we do it, and then we look back to say, okay, what do we actually need, and then we have to shift some of the POs around based on what you've originally set up at the beginning in July,
Yeah.
and then say, no, I need this because it's all out of the same bucket.
Okay.
So then we need to transfer.
We budgeted that though, did we not? Or not this amount?
We had revenues offsetting this expense up until when Gridiron moved out.
Or was
So
that
we
what
don't
it
have any
was?
revenues right now.
Right.
So to the rest of the year, it's 11.5 a month?
Correct.
Just to keep the heat on and
That's what I mean, yeah.
and the common outdoor expenses.
All right.
Any other questions? If not, we can have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is that Judy?
Yeah.
Yep, second?
Second.
Second, Maria. Okay, all in favor of approval? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, none. So moved. Anything else for Josh or Ann?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. All right, Tucker, you want to just, let's move on the meeting schedule, then we'll get to the library construction loan.
Fairly straightforward. I put the proposed meeting calendar on all of your tablets. Mirrors this year. One exception is that we have a Thursday meeting during budget season. So that's the calendar that I would like you all to vote on.
Any questions for Tucker? Anything we saw that we didn't like?
No,
No, don't answer that question.
no, it's fine.
Did you schedule an August meeting?
No, he didn't. Wishful
We'll
thinking,
just
huh?
call your attention to the fact
So
that
you can always cancel it.
No,
your next meeting in November, we did change the date on that. It's gonna
Yep, that's new.
for next month. That's it.
But for next year, it goes back to the regular order for November?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a late one, but it is the way it's the second Tuesday, right? So,
Okay.
okay, motion to approve.
So moved.
Chris, second.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right,
Aye.
Opposed, none? All right, thank you. Okay, let's move on to our final agenda item. We've got discussion. I think Chris and Tom will lead us through on the library credit line agreement.
And Todd, we do have one agenda item after that, the Waveney House.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do.
So I think the best way to start this would be to let the library give us an update on their cash flows, which will set the stage for the way that this loan has been finally put together. So I'll defer comments on the facility and the documentation until the library has given us an update.
Okay, my pleasure. I'm Bob Buttman, board chair of the library, and I'm here tonight to, first of all, thank the Board of Finance for all their efforts and work over the last 6 months or so in terms of getting these loan documents together, and especially Chris Labrie and Tom Schulte for pushing it through and making sure your attorney and our attorney have responded on a timely basis. So we're here tonight to talk a little bit about these documents, but also just to frame the picture in terms of where the library project is and the cash flows. So as we sit here at the end of September, the good news is the library project is on budget and on time, and we expect to open up the library in February. So that's really the good news. We are more than 60% complete relative to our GMP, gross maximum price. So if you look at the actual numbers, the total project cost is a little over $40 million, 40.1. We've completed 17.9 million, and we have 22 million to go, and that is technically 1 month behind because we do all our cash flows on a cash basis. So if you think about it, you know, we have in essence already, as of the end of September, paid more expenses, but we have less cash now. So that picture you're getting as of the spreadsheet that was sent to the Board of Finance is as of the 27th of September. Okay, so if you look at the breakdown on the costs, there's total project costs with Turner Construction is roughly 30 million. We've completed 13 million of that, and the balance is 17 million. On the soft cost side, the total costs are 8.5 million, of which we've completed 5.1, and we have 3.4 to go. Most of that is FF&E, about 2 million of costs to be done. So in total, if you look at where we stand from a cash flow standpoint, as of the 27th of September, we have 9 million in cash. We have a little over 4 million in pledges receivable, 4.02. Then we have 3.5 million of something called anticipated gifts. Now, anticipated gifts are one-time cash donations or gifts, as well as gifts that come through donor-advised funds. Donor-advised funds are an important component in fundraising and are not pledged technically by anyone. They can't be written and papered. That's just a law. So, but it's a big component of our fundraising piece. So that leaves us an additional fundraising of 5.7 million between now and at the time we complete everything, and we hope to do it here as quickly as possible, but certainly as soon as we can into the new year end. And of that 5.7, the way we model that out is we assume that 20% of that money will come as a one-time gift, and then 80% of it will be pledged over a 3 or 5 year period. And if you look at the breakdown between those two, we expect 80% of that 80% to come in 3 year and 20% in 5 years. So we're angling to try and get as much of the donations towards the new building in one-time gifts, but in general, more of 3 year gifts than 5 year gifts. So if you match that up against where we are with expenses, we would anticipate that with respect to these construction loan documents, that we need them in place and everything wrapped up and draw down most likely in December of this year end. Potentially in January, but more likely in December. So we pay our November bills on, they're due December 31st. So we have a 30-day lag. So we would need all the documents and be able to approach the town with respect to getting the first tranche of this loan in December.
Bob, what do you anticipate that first tranche to be?
So that first tranche would be roughly $3 million. Might be a little less, but that would be, I think, the maximum amount. So if you look at our borrowing pattern after that first tranche, the maximum drawdown is anticipated to be in 2023 at like $6.5 million. And so if you look at the way we'll draw this down, we're going to obviously spend all of our cash. Then at year end, we'll start borrowing. And, you know, in 2023, we could be borrowing anywhere between, I anticipate, 4 and 7 million. Each year thereafter, because we're going to continue to fundraise and the pledges will be coming in, we would anticipate knocking that number down by roughly 50%. So in 2024, our borrowing would be somewhere in the range of, I think, between 2 and 3.5 million. And then in 25, between 1 and 1.5 million, and then 26, we're done. And that's the ideal scenario, and it's based on the model, but it's very hard to forecast future pledges based on a lot of things that are going on in the economy today, you name it. But, you know, we're very confident, and, you know, we have a good pipeline thanks to the great team we have at the library. So we've been moving ahead on schedule. So that's the good news. Now I can address the documents themselves, or just...
No, why don't we ask some questions on the cash flow at this point, I think.
Sure.
So 2 questions I have right off the bat. One, on this cash flow statement, where do you model the debt?
Okay, so what happens in the cash flow statement is we assume a weighted average debt, if you will, over this 4-year period of roughly 4%. Now, I can't forecast what interest rates are going to do, but if in the first tranche we start borrowing in December, it would be roughly the 5-year muni rate, I think, is at 2.7%, so plus 25 basis points would be 2.95%. Now, it may have gone up since then.
Yeah, except we're not using the muni rate. We have to use taxable because we have to use taxable to fund the...
Okay. Well, if you go in the...
Well, but the document reads the 5-year muni rate.
So...
So the question, so I see where you've modeled the cost of the financing, but you don't have a line on here where you model your the draws and your cumulative use of the debt facility.
Correct. So the way the documents are written and we anticipate is that we first start and complete our borrowing through the next year in 2023. And in February 1st of 2024, we start paying interest and principal. And we pay first based on whatever our coffers have, the interest and then the remaining principal. So if you look at the scheduling, we can only estimate what dollars we'll have, you know, in the pledge account at that point in time. But, you know, it might be accelerated, but, you know, for the most part, you know, we have the amount of money that we'll use based on our balances at the time, and that will all go towards paying interest and principal. Okay. And if we have a zero balance that time and we used and paid down everything that we have in our accounts, then we'll have essentially another month where interest accrues till such time as we get another donation. And so the way it works is we'll just continue to pay off interest first and then principal until it's all been completed.
So will you hold from the pledges that come in and the funds set up for this? Will you hold back rather than pay the principal down? Say you have $4 million, right? You have to pay, and your interest payment is X. You're not going to pull that down to nothing. You're going to make sure you have enough funds to pay the next year's interest payment in the event you don't have more money coming in, right?
Right. Under a worst case scenario where we had no donations coming, it's accruing over time, right? And so, we can just accrue from month to month to month until we get a donation, and then that initially goes to paying interest down until we have enough donations to pay the principal. I would anticipate that's, we're not going to get into a dire scenario where, for the next 5 years, we're not going to raise any money. That would be a bit, absurd. But
you would hold back some of your donations, to make sure you had enough to pay interest in the following year, right?
Yeah. So what happens is
otherwise you have to go back and borrow. You can't borrow again, right? You can't come back on.
No.
Yeah.
No. But essentially every dollar that we get in, as far as a donation, a gift, is going to go into this pledge account.
Right.
Okay. That balance is going to be used exclusively for paying off interest and debt.
Yep.
And so you're going to basically sweep it. The town is going to sweep it every month, bring it down to zero until we paid off the balance. And if we have zero balance, it gets carried to the next month, to the next month, until we have another donation. That's how it's going to work.
All right.
Yeah. So, Amy, the way the mechanism works, the library may draw on this facility until December of 23. And then in February of 24, they start repaying.
Okay.
So they can't borrow anymore after the end of the year of 23. Then we skip a month to make sure everything kind of settles out, and then they start paying in February. And it's a sweep. So whatever's in that pledged account, the town goes in, gets the money, applies the first dollars to interest, the second dollars to principal.
Okay.
Now, what Bob is saying is if you get there's zero money in the till, then you're going to have to accrue your interest.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, that's the way it should work.
Further questions?
Hey, Bob, it's Todd. Just want to make sure I understood. You thought the drawdown would peak at $7 million. Did I hear that right?
It's very hard to forecast the exact stream of donations and revenue, but based on our model and based on our current pledges, we would expect that in 2023 we would be borrowing somewhere in the range of $4 to $7 million.
Right.
That's a wide range. In worst case scenario, and the pledges get delayed or the fundraising is slowed down for some reason, it could go a little bit beyond that. But the reason we have a $10 million number there is to ensure that the project gets completed on a timely basis. And I wouldn't hope that we never approach that number, but I think we need to be safe rather than sorry.
Well, look, I think we started this project thinking this was going to be more like 10 to 13, if I recall.
Yeah, the original approval was for 30% of the project, so we're looking at $13 million. Then the number bounced around a little bit while we were writing the loan agreement, and so when we asked for kind of final numbers, library came back and said we should err on the side of caution and asked that the number be inserted as 10 million, and we don't see any problem. Those of us from the Board of Finance who worked on these documents with the Selectman's office see no problem with that.
Well, I was just going to say, I think coming down from 13 to the 4 to 7 range is great work. And so I appreciate the point you're making on having some cushion, Chris. That makes perfect sense. Tom, any comments? I know you worked on the document as well, went back and forth quite a bit. You're happy with where we are? I think we're leaning on you and Chris a lot as relates to this.
Yeah, no, we are happy where these ended up. You know, there was a lot of education on both sides, but I think where we ended up was a set of papers that make sense from the town. You know, reflect a true commitment to support the project, and you know, overall, I think Chris and I are very happy with what we're left with here. It's a good security package. The mechanics seem to work. I think the town will be able to administer this just fine.
Yeah, fully agree.
Other questions for the team? Bob?
Yeah. Just remind me what the opening day expectation is, and I would think you'd get a nice bump in fundraising around that, but then I get concerned that maybe once it's open, people, you know, say, well, why am I giving? It's all done. I'm just curious how that has figured into your projections.
Okay, well, I think the first thing is that with the help of Ellen Cravato and her team, we have been pushing the fundraising effort here very hard here, and we'll continue to do so prior to the opening, with a lot of events happening here in October, November, and December. The opening is scheduled for the first week in February. The library will close, I believe it's planned now on December 1st. There's a lot of work that's going to be required to essentially move books and prepare the new building to get ready. So a bulk of December and January are going to be undertaking, the whole staff's going to be undertaking that effort. It's a gargantuan effort, but then, you know, on February there will be some sort of donor event at the beginning of the month, around February 4th, I believe. Then shortly thereafter, there should be a opening for the public on the 6th. And, you know, we're going hard and fast towards those dates. And, you know, the good news is Turner is on time and on budget, you know, so far, and is making great progress. So we're not, at this point, concerned that there's something that will crop up other than potentially weather, but hopefully so far so good.
So just a little bit of a follow-up. So after that, then donations that come in that aren't earmarked for construction per se, those are still swept into the, it's sort of all contributions, or is there a differentiation? Somebody says, oh, I'm going to support the operating budget versus the capital budget.
Yeah, Bob, so there's really several components of the fundraising for the library. One is the annual fund, which goes towards the operating part of the library. It's a big component. It's about a third of our overhead, you know, our overall revenue. The rest is the town's grant. But, you know, all the monies that's going to be swept into this account are specifically for the capital campaign. And the capital campaign as it relates to this new building and only the new building. So, you know, we're going to have a whole host of events leading up to the opening of the library, but we'll continue to fundraise very hard in the next year until we meet our goal. So it's approximately $5 million, give or take, that we need to raise between now and the time that we would sort of wind down the capital campaign. That's $5 million of new fundraising.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Thanks,
What
Bob.
happens in February of 2023? It looks like your construction costs drop from $2 million to about $800,000 on a monthly basis, and then it just stays at that level?
That's correct. So a bulk of the expenses up until February relate to the actual building construction. At that point in time, the residual expenses are really relating to drainage, the property, the lawn, the landscape, everything that's going to have to be done to get the whole building in place. Also, we're going to have to do surgical demolition relating to the old building. So that's a good component of those costs as well.
Okay, so basically the main construction is done.
The main construction of the new building should be effectively completed at year end into January. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Any, I mean, I know you're only, what are you, 40, 60% complete? Any potential positive swings for you in your contingencies and construction, you know, contingencies with the contractor that might fall your way, or is it just a little too early to?
So there's two contingencies in the overall budget. One is the owner's contingency of $1 million, which hasn't been tapped into yet, knock on wood. And we wouldn't anticipate, at least at this point, the way the project's going, that we're going to have to delve into that in a big way. The other thing is the construction contingency. Right. Now there you have certain change orders that have already been put in place and certain ones that we know about that be forecasted. So, but it doesn't by any means eat up all of that contingency either. So there is a chance that we could recoup relative to the total project cost, you know, anywhere in the neighborhood of $1 million to $1.5 million.
Which would reduce that gap you have to fill.
Right, which would reduce the fundraising gap. Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Good. Other questions?
Todd, I'd like to clarify something here because I think Bob mentioned something that I want to make sure we don't have a different understanding about. The interest rate on an advance is defined in the promissory note in paragraph 1. And if we issue a bond, it's the actual cost of the bond. If we use general funds, it's the current muni rate. And my understanding is in either case we have to issue taxable bonds because we can't issue tax-exempt bonds to fund this loan. So, Bob, do you have a different understanding as to what current muni rate means in terms of because it says a 5-year municipal bond issued on the date of the borrower's request for the advance as determined by the lender's chief financial officer. That would be a taxable bond, and the rates of the spreads have increased. So,
well, all the spreads have increased.
No, but the spreads on taxable versus tax exempt have increased.
Yeah, that's a good detail, Kevin. It's not addressed in the document.
Well, it all depends on what the muni rate means in terms of 5-year municipal bond. Municipal bonds can be either taxable or tax exempt, and we know we can't issue tax exempt bonds on this facility. So, and we did anticipate we probably will use general fund dollars rather than issuing bonds. So, just so we have a clear understanding as to what the rate is.
Right. So, but so that's.
Well, it's important that Bob understands.
Right, no, right. Yeah, but it would help, you know, it'd save him money if you used general funds, you know, certainly.
Well, no, I think either way we have to issue taxable.
But not if you can use.
Is our understanding, Chris and Tom, that we would give tax-free rates if we were issuing general fund dollars as opposed to if we actually issue a bond?
Well, you know, that's a good question because I don't think, as I was just saying, the definition of the muni rate, 5-year muni rate, I don't think addresses whether it's taxable or not taxable. So that is probably a minor tweak that ought to be inserted in there.
Well, again,
I think it does say it's determined by the lender's chief financial officer, and I think what Kevin is telling us is the way they would fund this would be issuing taxable bonds.
Because by statute, they're not allowed to go into the tax-free market.
Right.
So then you don't have to, so then it's at the discretion of the town CFO, and that person can only do what they're legally allowed to do.
Yeah, the MOU says our cost of funds. And we're actually thinking where we would be issuing bonds, but more recently we've been thinking we would issue checks.
In order for us to build out the cash flow spreadsheet, we didn't have the precision, obviously, of knowing the exact interest rate over this period of time. So all I did was try and look at what it is currently, roughly, and then assume that there's probably, on average, going to be another 100 basis points added over the next year or so, and therefore, you know, we'd come out with a conservative 4% interest rate. So when you see the interest accruing over time, it's $500,000 that we've set aside in the budget. You know, technically it was in the cash flow spreadsheet about $417,000. So somewhere in that ballpark, I think we're going to be close.
Yeah, I think our AAA New Canaan kind of
Yeah,
indicator
that
rate is a lot less than Bankwell's cost of funds.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
that's
and
always
just
been,
so everyone
that's always
knows,
been and our spread at a quarter point is always much better. So
Right.
right, and what we did is
I just have the sense, I mean, talking about muni rate, you know, you can automatically think tax exempt, but it's not tax exempt.
Yeah. So what I would
Right.
suggest is that before we sign the document, that we clarify this.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Tom, did you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so we built in the flexibility to say the rate on the loan will be dependent on the source that the town uses to fund the requested advance.
Right.
So if we source it by issuing a bond, it's going to be 25 bips over whatever the coupon is in the bond that we issue. So that part's easy and self-executing. If it turns out that we source the advance from our general fund, you had to ask yourself, well, all right, what is the town's cost of funds, right? That's a mixture of funds that either came back to us in prior years, et cetera, and so forth. And so the proxy was to pick the 5-year muni rate. It is all dependent on what the CFO would say that muni rate is, and to Kevin's point, it would need to be on a taxable basis. I think it's all kind of baked in there, but we should, if someone thinks there's a question.
Now, whereas a quarter before, so
Right.
it's gone up a bit. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the question is really, does Bob have the right number in his spreadsheet?
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yep.
Anything else? If not, Judy, we'll need a motion on this resolution, but I think you need to read the resolution into the minutes. So if you could read the resolution, then I'll ask for a motion or a vote.
Hold on.
And Todd, it's important to explain that if the bonds are used, that's using option A. If we make an investment, that's being done through Andrew Brooks as treasurer, and we would do it directly from the general fund.
Has anybody got the resolution up?
It's in the agenda.
It's
in
on
the
the,
agenda.
all right, it's not coming, okay. All right, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $10 million for the library loan 2022 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $10 million.
Okay, a motion.
so moved.
Okay.
Chris, second.
Second.
Michael Chen, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstains? Abstentions? None? So moved. Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Okay.
Very exciting.
We have one other item on the agenda, the Waveney House renovation. I think, again, Tiger and Bill, I'll ask you guys to walk us through where we are with that and what we need to do in terms of getting this financed and moving.
Sure. First off, thank you very much for adding this. We know we came after the agenda was posted, but we appreciate you bringing it forward. We've been trying to walk several projects through the Board of Finance and the Town Council over the past several months, the Playhouse, the Police Department, and then, now you have the library as well. So we've been trying to space out our discussions on larger capital expenditures. And while we had pushed Waveney off, we can't push it off much further. This is basically a request that we brought forward in fiscal 23 during the budget discussions. We had then, at that point in time, separated into two phases, the bathrooms at $990,000 and then the elevator at $1.76 million. We're in essence asking, and then at that point in time, the Board of Finance did approve the 990. It went to the council, and the council was looking for some additional information, specifically around the use of the house and what was going to happen with the house post-construction. I think that at that point in time, we went back and took a look at that, hired Noble House to come in and take a look at Waveney, see what we could do as far as a venue. And Kevin mentioned in his update today that we've actually hired on a part-time basis Phoebe Knowles to work as the wedding coordinator for Waveney. she'll have a dual role working with the Conservancy, so it's in essence a full-time role working in and around Waveney itself. So we think that we've addressed that for the council as to what we're looking to do with the building. It's basically going to be the exact same as it was. It'll be a venue for events and for weddings, and hopefully long into the future. So now we're at the point where we're in essence done with phase one of the construction, which was basically ADA accessibility in and around the building on the first floor. And now we have to address the concerns of a lack of available bathrooms, accessible bathrooms, I should say, and a means to get to those bathrooms. So now we're faced with the chicken and the egg. Do we build the bathrooms on the second floor without a way to access them, or do we build an elevator without having anything on the second floor to go to, namely the bathrooms? So our feeling is that given the fact that this project was bid in April of 20, we started the design process somewhere in 2016. I think Lee started with us in 2016, 2018 in earnest. We'd like to bring the two phases together into one phase with the contractor that was the low bidder at the time. He's been doing a nice job trying to hold his pricing. He's actually held his elevator pricing since April of 20. The bathroom price has escalated a little bit, but we're 2 years post, and we're going through an incredible time in the world as far as material procurement and cost. So we'd like to bring everything together, and the numbers are, in essence, are the exact same. What you had seen in our fiscal 23 budget was, like I said, $990 and $1.76 million. Was basically the $898,000 for the bathroom plus a 10% contingency, and then $1.6 million plus a 10% contingency for the elevator. I was a little bit more conservative in my estimate, and I put forward, since it was a historic building, and we still, as we try to open up walls now and put an elevator in and open up walls and put in a bathroom, things of that nature, I added that contingency to 20%, but we could certainly step that back down again. So all in, it was $2.5 million of construction costs, a contingency of 20%. Our standard for all of our other projects are 15. I just elevated it by another 5% just to be conservative. So $500,000 contingency for a total request of $3,002,180 to complete phase 2 and phase 3 elevator construction and bathroom installation on the second floor for Waveney House. I should mention that I have Bill and Lee Cromwell. I mentioned Lee Cromwell's our designer. She's been with us faithfully since the beginning of this project. If there are any questions about the construction itself or other aspects of it, certainly the three of us can answer.
I rarely catch Tiger making a mistake, but it's not Noble House Media. It's Case Study Brands.
Sorry, my bad.
But, you know, the business plan that we have, we've increased our rates for weddings. Mm-hmm. And between the plan to increase our revenues significantly, doubling or more our revenues, goes to making Waveney, you know, the building right now shines on the outside. We have to get this ADA work done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think as we've talked for now a few months, meetings, years, we have to be ADA compliant. So I think, Tiger,
right, yeah.
you have to schedule the sequencing of what has to happen, but I have to think the elevators the problem, right? And so let's make sure we understand that's the purpose here. So we have to have that building ADA compliant, and this board responsible for making that happen.
Right. I will mention that the Department of Justice did come in April, May of this year. The attorney and the architect, the reviewing architect, spent about 4 hours in Waveney reviewing the house, and they'll be coming forward with a sizable report at some point in time of Waveney and other areas of town. And I think it would be in our best interest to be ahead of that report. We said that we were going to be going forward with accessible bathrooms. We said we'd be putting in an elevator. I think it would be in our best interest to be ahead of that report. And then when it comes in, we can say, well, we've already allocated the money. You knew we had it out for bid. You knew we had a bidder. We were just waiting for the allocation of the funds. And I think it would be in our best interest to be ahead of that report.
Well, it's in our best interest to get it done. I mean, you know, to your point, fair enough, but we've got to move this along. So you're asking for a $3 million appropriation?
That's correct.
And just to be clear, if we're going to keep Waveney as a town building that we use, whether we use it for weddings, whether we use it for just town purposes, we need to get this done, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the wedding is, you know, people can.
That's right.
We do 60 weddings a year, but a lot of them we do because people, it's the cheapest game in town.
Right.
So,
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of the weddings, it's not necessarily New Canaan residents, it's the greater
Right.
area. And
Right.
and much as I like the fact that we have these great resources, I don't feel we need to underwrite the rest of Fairfield County. So, I mean, I personally, I'm less concerned about the weddings, but if we have determined we're going to keep this building,
Yeah.
we have, I guess
Exactly.
to do this kind of like the same
And the-
conversation we had with the Playhouse.
And the building is worth $25 million. I mean, this is a necessary. The only thing we have outstanding afterwards is air conditioning, and that's very discretionary. So.
Yeah, and we'll still be using the building for. We still have rec, right? It's
Sure.
going to be up there. It's not like we're doing this so people in the town never can use this facility because it's rented
Right.
out all the time
Exactly.
for weddings. I think that's important.
Exactly.
Right. So, and it, you know, if anyone's walked around it, it's an old building. It's hard to. It's hard to move around. I mean, the first floor you guys fixed, which is great, but it's hard to. If you're not mobile, it's hard to get around in that place. It's a big number. And
Big number.
is it going to be the cage elevator, the pretty?
With the committee, yes.
Yeah.
You know, keep in mind, we had an estimate how many years ago for $16 million. You know, we did $2 million roof. We did $1.5 million for the first floor ADA. This is another ADA step, and then the only thing outstanding is air conditioning. So, because this eliminates the need for us to maintain any of those old bathrooms. This is one modern bathroom facility that anybody using the building can use.
And when you get air conditioning, you mean heat as well as air
No,
conditioning?
no, the heat's, you know, by the way, we're bringing gas to, we put a new boiler in a few years ago. So
We're working on a plan now. 'Cause you guys have approved the funding to put a plan together so that we're ready if it were to fail or whatever. But now that gas is going up there, we're working on an agreement now with Eversource to not only bring the gas into the park but to get it in all the buildings. Waiting for that to be finalized, and then we can get a nice energy efficient system in there in the future, which will allow the option if you want to do air conditioning, we can do it at the same time.
remember, we spent money to build the plan. So if we had to do it within 6 months, we could do it within 6 months. And it'd be a forced hot air system. So.
Can you remind me, because like years ago, we had this whole subcommittee on where to put the elevator and bathrooms and that. So in terms of the design and what it's going to look like, is that, are we still working with that?
Exactly. That's why it costs so much compared to the elevator, which is kind of off the rack for the Playhouse. So this is a custom-made elevator.
That same context of what?
Definitely a custom elevator.
Yeah.
Like the images you've previously seen.
Yeah. In the bathrooms being, you know, stepped up and fancy and.
Right.
So back to the total here, you had the $1.5 million plus this $3 million, and what was the other?
$2 million for the roof.
I included that, so it's 2 and 3.
$2 million for roof.
So
what
what
again, Kevin? $2 million for roof.
Yeah.
$1.5 million for the first floor, you know, and we did a lot of work on that first floor to make that ADA compliant.
Right.
The site work.
Entrance.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
It was not. It was
Yeah,
$1
right.
million.
That's the ramp on.
$1 million?
A little under $1 million.
$1.2 million? Okay.
This is 3.
So can you just,
Yeah,
about
so
the
is that
elevator,
right?
is
Yeah,
that, is it,
that's what I
is
had.
it the bird cage or is it something a little bit more streamlined and contemporary?
It started out with that kind of a nomenclature, but it's modern. It's has a metal framework. There's glass. It's a very contemporized interpretation of what, you know, back in the 1800s was called a birdcage elevator. It is not a historical birdcage, no.
The SHPO people came in and said, you don't want to try to replicate something that was not in existence at the time. So.
A maintenance nightmare.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Even if it ends up becoming revenue neutral, it's still an icon. It's still Waveney House. It's used by everybody forever. I mean, as long as anybody's ever lived here. I don't think, you know, have
for more than
longer than that. So I think regardless if it's you know 100 more weddings, It still has to be done. I don't think it's all about revenue, but.
It's all about ADA.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Focus.
Right. And it's long overdue. We talked
Yeah.
about it 20 years ago. We all did. So, yeah.
I think it's important, Judy,
Capital
just
budget, right?
remember.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's important to remember that all the town bodies, not just the Board of Finance, but all the town bodies have recognized for a long time that there was no scenario in which this ADA work doesn't get done.
That's right.
It's absolutely needed to get done. But I don't think it was unfair, and I think there were some very important voices in the room and all these bodies saying, before we do this, and we know we're going to do this, but before we do this, it's not unfair to say, what's the plan?
Yeah.
What are we aiming for? We now have a plan. We know what we're aiming for. Time has come to write that check, and so I think, it's fair. We're all supportive of that.
And work needed to be done on architect drawings and other related planning things too for that building. Okay, so any other questions for Tiger?
All right. So
Same thing, Judy. I think we need the resolution read into the minutes for the $3 million.
Tucker has it for you.
All right. It's not.
Tiger, how long would this take to get done?
So,
Bill?
Well,
Tiger?
it's going to take a little time. We would probably order the elevator, get that going, and work this winter when it's downtime to get as much done as possible upstairs for the bathrooms. Bathrooms upstairs can be done pretty much without affecting the rest of the house. And then goal would be once the bathroom's all done, the finish is all done up there, that elevator is going to show up, and we're going to roll right into that. It's a timing thing. I have to, dodge weddings and everything else, but we'll make it work.
Yeah, because a couple years ago, we were like putting weddings on hold because we thought we were going to do work. So have we booked ourselves into a situation where...
It's going to be a challenge, but we'll do it. It may take a little longer, but it's not going to add more cost for even longer. It's just we don't want to lose no revenue sources either. So the contractor understands that. So
Yeah, but we don't make a lot from weddings.
no, but if they're booked and there's a legal obligation,
That's
we don't
true.
want to create any litigation over a couple of, listen, the weddings are Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And what we've done in the past is work Monday through Friday and knocked off at noon on Friday. And that was a cleanup from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. They clean everything so it looks like we're in there. That's worked. It's worked well, and that's kind of like the way we're going to go into this.
Okay.
Good luck.
Judy, you have the resolution?
All right, everyone. Resolution authorizing an appropriation of $3 million to $180,000 for the Waveney Park ADA upgrades Phase 2 and 3 2022 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in amount not to exceed $3 million to $180,000. All right.
Motion to approve? Have a motion?
Judy raised her hand.
I'm sorry.
Judy, I'm sorry. Judy raised her hand. Sorry, second. Tom?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hands or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's a lot of progress tonight. Okay, very good. With that, I think that's the end of our agenda. Judy, anything else? Or Tucker?
No,
Meeting November 17th.
no, I think we're good.
Good reminder, the next meeting is late. We had to move it for scheduling purposes. It's November 17th. So we will see you all then, and we'll talk about the budget in that meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Maria?
So move, second, yep, Tom, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none? So moved. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Have a good week.